Hello, coin droppers, and welcome back to the Coin Drop Podcast, episode number 42. Hard to believe we're 10 away from a full year of episodes at this point. It's been going quick, surprisingly quick. Our 1 year anniversary is next month, Tim. How's your week been, buddy?
Oh, it's been a week. Got laid off on Friday, but I knew it was coming. It's just what happens. That's how construction works, you know. When the job starts to finish, people start to get laid off. Yep. So Monday, I started in a new place.
Always working yourself out of a job.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I would say around, I think it was Thursday, maybe Friday. Doesn't matter. My back, molar, whatever. one of my back teeth fucking hurts, and it's bothering the shit out of me. I'm taking literally Tylenol and Advil every 5 hours, alternating. It's how bad it hurts. So I need to go see a dentist, and it hurts.
Sorry to hear it, man.
Yeah, shit happens.
Yep.
And I'm trying to catch up on Final Fantasy VII so we can talk about it, and I cannot be spoiler heavy.
I mean, you know, like, honestly, dude, you know.
I know.
You know most of the story. Yeah, no, I get you. I haven't even played Integrate or Intermission, whatever.
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct.
I haven't played that, but I'm pretty sure. Like, after watching the state of play, I'm pretty sure my theory still stands, and it'll be a fun one to discuss and kind of debate. But that's for a future episode. I got my bike working. My lights
next
work.
Week?
Yeah, that's next week. I got my bike working. Yes. Bought some mirrors that, unfortunately, I really loved, but I found out that they don't work. Well, the right one doesn't work on my bike, so that sucks. Yeah, the right one's reverse threaded, so I was like, what the fucking nonsense? Why? Yeah, dude, Yamaha, for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know why.
Just the right one?
Just the right one. Yeah, I have no idea. No fucking clue why.
Did you buy these in store?
Well, I mean, no, the bike, the actual bikes, like where it attaches.
The bikes? Oh.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, dude, it's so weird. Which is disappointing, but I ordered some new ones. I have to take those back. And working on some other projects.
We're not a motorcycle podcast.
Yeah, we are not. We're a video game podcast, I think. Maybe. Are we? Are we a podcast, Tim? What are we? Who am I?
On other news, I am reading the book called Red... Keep going.
Let's talk about George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones. No, I'm just fucking. Let's talk about everything but video games. All right, let's address the elephant in the room. I really don't want to make this long, so Tim, please, let's keep this short. Tell us about Microsoft. I'm sorry, everyone, we're doing this again. One more time.
I'm gonna give you tiny, what's the word? Not spoiler, not
Cliff notes.
I don't know. Red flag.
Just give us the cliff notes.
Flag. No, it's a red flag because last week actually there was like, I'm gonna say this quick, and we talked about it for 15 minutes.
Yep.
So I told you guys last week that if we were correct, I would say, fuck yeah, we were right, moving on. And if we were wrong, we would discuss it for a little bit. Well, it was kind of both, but mostly we're correct. They're going third party. They said that there's going to be 4 games they're bringing to other platforms. They didn't specify what platforms. They didn't specify what video games. Most people believe it's going to be Hi-Fi Rush, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, and there's some other like Pentiment and whatnot, other games that they're expecting.
Sure.
The big things that for me stuck out was they're like, don't worry, this isn't a change in fundamental strategy for first party and exclusivity. And you know, we're not looking at any other games outside of these 4. And literally later that day, the Phil Spencer was in an interview and someone's like, well, you guys said that it's not going to be Starfield and Indiana Jones, but would those games eventually come to PlayStation? And he goes, you know what? We can't rule out any game coming to other platforms. So they immediately contradicted themselves. Yep. Which basically means that they didn't clarify like they needed to, so their fan base can at least feel a little bit secure. And they made it more ambiguous to basically state that they probably will. This is their way of soft moving into third-party publishing. The other big thing was, I honestly, I don't know her title. All I know is she sucks at it. Her name is Sarah Bond. And she, on the pre-recorded thing, like legitimately pre-recorded, they could have re-recorded this section to correct the misinformation, but basically she stated that Diablo 4 is coming to Game Pass, and it's going to be available for all 34 million subscribers of Game Pass. And if you don't know, Game Pass has a set of tiers, just like PlayStation Plus does, or like most subscription services. And the low tier only has, I think it's 28 games available. It's kind of like PlayStation, the way PlayStation Plus did when the PS5 just launched, where there's like this list of games you can play these ones. Except for the Xbox ones, it's supposed to like rotate every month. Anyways, that group of people is not going to get Diablo 4. So sucks to be you, especially because, you know, one of the main heads at Microsoft gave you some false hope because they walked that back like super quick, and it's only going to be for the higher tiers of Xbox Game Pass. That's pretty much it. We were correct. There's some small caveats, but we were correct. So moving on.
So I just want to briefly say this real quick too, because it got me wondering, it got me going, well, I know Microsoft is a publicly traded company, but does Microsoft distinguish Xbox out as its own company in the stock market? Turns out it doesn't. What's interesting, though, their stock prices really haven't taken a hit from this. Like, at all.
No. Well, I mean, you'd got to think when you consider investors and stuff of that sort, when they see the option or the opportunity to make more money, of course they're not going to be upset about it.
But is it really more money? Like, that's the thing, is if their games are now on every console, the hardware doesn't sell any, which means like the player base will eventually go. It's a whole thing we don't need to get into. But
the Xbox isn't selling anyway, so of course they don't care.
I mean, you know, fair point. So let's talk about something else that isn't selling, according to Ubisoft. Yeah, you like that transition? That was pretty good. I'm pretty proud of myself for that one. That was smooth. So Ubisoft recently came out and said that they were disappointed in the sales of Assassin's Creed Nexus. We briefly mentioned Nexus last episode, but apparently I completely forgot. I don't remember what we said, but I know we didn't discuss.
We're going to go into more depth.
Yeah, we're going to go in a little bit more depth about it. Ubisoft CEO basically said that they were disappointed in the sales of Nexus. Granted, some of these numbers make sense. So let me just put it to you this way. This is a direct quote from the CEO. He said, quote, "It did okay and it continues to sell, but we thought it would sell more," is his statement. Now, it sold, estimated, between 220,000 and 250,000 copies. It sounds like a lot, but you also got to remember that they're going into this with the expectation that it's the Assassin's Creed franchise, which is used to seeing 150 million copies sold per release, at least.
No. Calm down there. The series as a whole has sold 150 million copies.
You're right. Still, yes. A lot of copies. A lot more than 200,000 copies.
I think it's more like closer to 10 million per game. Yeah. So that's still a lot.
Significantly more. So I get that. What they don't tell us is how much it costs to make it, right? So that's our big first question is, okay, well, how much did it actually cost to make? Well, we don't know. But we do know that this is only one system that they released it on. They only released it on the MetaQuest for whatever reason, which inherently, again, we've said this before, dividing up the market in a niche market like VR is a bad idea. Everything should release everywhere because VR is niche. It still is. It probably will be for quite a few more years. But it's sold for $40 on the Quest. Meta takes 30% of every purchase through its store, which means Ubisoft took home about $28 in revenue on each copy sold. Rough math says that that's between $6 million and $7 million for Assassin's Creed Nexus VR, which technically, numbers-wise, puts it in a successful game when compared to other things. Looking at Steam, this article, for anybody who's interested, is on Android Central. It's Assassin's Creed VR isn't a failure. Ubisoft needs a reality check. And I agree. And this is why. Looking at sales on Steam, Assassin's Creed sold in the top 4% of all games on Steam, and it's not even released on Steam because only 4% of games released on Steam make more than $1 million. This made 6 to 7 times that on Meta. Solely one headset. Wasn't even released to Steam VR. Like, you can't get this on Steam. So
or PSVR.
Or PSVR. Like, it literally only sold on Meta. for whatever reason, I don't know if they had a deal with Facebook, whatever the case was. 1% said was going to say some real copium for very high numbers. Yeah. It's still a niche gaming market. Like, it's ridiculous. So we don't know how much the game cost. So for them, that might have been breaking even. It could have. I can't see it costing them $6 million to make that game, but what the hell do I know? You know, you've got Skull and Bones coming out, which I think is out now or comes out very soon. Can't remember which.
It is out, yes.
Which the CEO...
Which, by the way, it's the first quadruple A game ever, just so you know.
Yeah, according to the CEO, it's quadruple A. From the people that have played it, the early impressions, not great. Not great.
So not great that if you compare Black Flag to it, Black Flag is better.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. There's no seamless transition from boat to land. There's no real. It's a ship simulator. What the hell does quadruple A even mean?
It means nothing. It's like when you your term of copium, that to the max.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah. So here's the thing, man. It is any indie game would be stoked to sell what Assassin's Creed Nexus did. Any single one of them, 100%. And it's hard to say how much Ubisoft invested into it, but why not consider releasing it in other places? You will see a massive spike. Look at Microsoft. They're pushing their games to other consoles, right? Like, why not do the same thing? Because VR is a niche group. I don't know the exact percentage, but I guarantee you VR players are less than 25% of the entirety of gamers. Guarantee it's less than 25%.
It's probably less than 5%.
Yeah, it's probably real small. I was taking a safe guess because I haven't done the research, so I have no fucking clue. I can almost guarantee a quarter of gamers do not own a headset, so I figured that was a safe bet.
I can guarantee that, at least.
So, now, Ubisoft needs... Here's the problem, dude. It's such a good game. It is hands down one of the best VR titles I have ever played. It is so fun, so enjoyable. It makes you feel like Ezio. It makes you feel like Connor. It makes you feel like Cassandra. Like, it feels good, and it's really disappointing and disheartening to see Ubisoft be like, well, we're not going to increase our interest. That doesn't mean there isn't more coming. We know, not that it matters, I don't think this is something our audience gives a shit about. We know they're making a Let's Dance VR game, which... fucking why. But yeah. The fact that franchise has survived as long as it has is really impressive, considering DDR died out in like early 2010 maybe. Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. Anyways, this isn't
the real problem is that this is really just a problem with
the industry,
the software industry as a whole. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't matter where you look. It like we said, I think if it wasn't last episode, it was the episode before that. The industry, late stage capitalism has become such a major problem that if they don't have the whole fucking pie, they just go, well, we failed. Yeah. It doesn't matter that we made money on this piece of shit. Throw it away. Basically, they're taking a page out of Peter Molyneux's book. He loves his projects until they release and says, this shit fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Wait till the next one.
Yep.
And
it's not on rails, guys. It's not Fable on rails. My favorite quote, dude. Peter, we're looking at it on screen. It's on rails.
It's on rails. Yeah, no, but basically the games, they don't do like stupid ass massive numbers. You know, they don't have an 800% or whatever profit margin, and therefore they're failures.
Yeah. And going back to this being a thing in the industry, Sony, the CEO of Sony, Naomi Matsuoka, butchered that name, I'm sure. The CEO said they were underwhelmed by the sales of the PlayStation 5 in 2023. They sold 21 million units in 2023. They outsold the Xbox 3-1 in 2023. Highest amount of revenue they've ever made off a console ever. And the executives and investors are spinning it as a negative, saying, well, we didn't make as much as we thought we were going to make. Bitch, you made so much money, you're richer than God. Like, what the fuck more do you want?
The only thing I can say about that one in particular is that they had goals. I don't know if they were plans or expectations or goals or what, like, you know, because expectations and goals are different.
Sure.
They were their goals were to sell 25 million units within that fiscal year, which they still have a month and a half.
Yeah.
But they're obviously not going to sell 4 million units in that time span unless, Final Fantasy VII really performs, or Helldivers is done so amazingly that people are going to go buy PlayStations for it. But the problem is that they had goals and they're low enough below them to where they're, quote, disappointing, which you could read into, but either way, like you stated, that the numbers and the metrics that they did, they literally outperformed Microsoft. If you include Activision Blizzard with them, their profits are literally higher than Microsoft's, with that included.
Yep.
Still, how can you spin that as a negative in any way, shape, or form?
Dude, it's the whole pie or we failed, and I don't get that mentality. 1% asked if they've beaten PS2 in units yet. I don't think they have. I think PS2 is still the largest sales, but still, like, dude, we're only 4 years into this generation.
We'll be 4 in November.
4 in November. We're not even 4 years into this generation. I don't think we're even halfway through the generation. There's so many sales to make. So many.
So with that said specifically, actually Sony did state, and it was like massively misinterpreted over the last week, was that Sony said something and people misinterpreted it to say that Sony said that the PS5 was in its last leg, like it's entering the later stages of life.
Are you kidding me?
Well, if you actually, translate it appropriately, it's entering its second half of life cycle. So, like, those are different, and that says tracks. That we have at least we have at least 3 years left on the PlayStation 5. Yeah. But I would guess more like 4 years.
Dude, honestly, like, the tech is so far ahead of what's even being made at this point. There's no reason to do another gen for at least another 5 years. At least.
It's not going to be that long.
I don't think it's going to be either, but like, I don't have a PS5, so I can't speak to how crazy it is, but
AI is advancing so fast that AI will 100% be a portion of the next console generation. 100%. Even cell phone developers have stated that their next phones this year are going to have AI built into them. So it's going to be the case with consoles as well. Of course, the AI would be stuff like DLSS and DLAA and whatnot, but like, I can imagine in 4 or 5 years, it'll be even more so than that.
You are ahead of me in the console generation, my friend. I am pretty heavily set into the PC world at this point. I do plan on getting a PS5 once the Pro comes out, but if the Pro comes out, but it just, dude, PC feels so good to me now that I'm just like,
do you see the tags on our channel? One of them is cringe. That's Russ.
It is. Yep. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. That is me. I am the cringe. Call me the cringe lord.
Especially with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming out in like a little over a week.
Oh man, it hurts. I really want to play it, but at the same time, limited to 60 FPS after playing Crisis Core Reunion at 120 on my PC. I'm like, I think I can wait.
Democracy.
Lethal says it's okay. I still play my Genesis. I wish I could still play Genesis with you, dude. Streets of Rage 2 all day, every day.
Oh yeah,
all day, every day.
TMNT.
Yeah, that one too. The bottom line is like, AAA studios don't need to make games for VR. Right? UE5 is making VR games way more easy to build with native support built into the literal dev tools for UE5. So it's just disappointing to see a big company like Ubisoft look at a fantastic game, honestly, a fantastic game, and consider it a failure. But they're not the only ones, I just hope that it's frustrating because as soon as there's any kind of negative sentiment, you get, the anti-VR people, which I don't understand, coming out going like, oh, VR's dead. No, it's not. There's so many good games for VR. There's a ridiculous amount of good games for VR. What there isn't for VR is a lot of AAA titles for VR because AAA studios have huge overheads and VR is niche, so you take a risk whenever you release on VR, which is why you see stuff with VR modes, like Resident Evil 4 Remake has a VR mode, which still want that on PC. Fuck, come on. But that's besides the point.
Resident Evil 8 as well,
Yeah. Metro Awakening on VR looks fucking awesome.
Oh, that game looks so good.
Dude.
Yes.
Hell yes. Arizona Sunshine 2, the first one's great. I can't wait for the second one. Still haven't played Asgard's Wrath 2. It came free with my Quest 3, but I haven't played it yet. Vampire the Masquerade VR it's okay. I don't think it's great, but it's okay. Justice is that one. It's okay. But I mean, fucking Half-Life Alyx, dude. That is great game. Any of the
I'm
job
honestly still surprised that
like,
Sony hasn't snagged that one yet. Like, I really would have expected them to have that brought to PSVR.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they haven't been like, just tell us how much.
yeah,
exactly. Just name your fucking price, Gabe. But yeah, it's disappointing to hear that. I loved Assassin's Creed Nexus VR. Still haven't beat it. I really was hoping for more in that vein, like a mainline Assassin's Creed title. But hey, maybe in a couple of years, Assassin's Creed will decide to make a UE5 version of the game, and then I'll have VR support through Praydog, the man, the myth, the legend. But that's
maybe you can beat the game if you stop beating your meat. I mean, just.
You're right. That's my project. I'm just over here. I'm trying to rack up the Guinness World Record.
That is his major project.
Yep, that's my major project. I'm over here just trying to rack up the Guinness World Record.
I don't know. I don't think you're going to win that one. There's a guy that did that. I don't remember how many times, but he literally died.
Oh my God.
Because he did it so much. Not kidding. Look up that story.
I'm going to have to. That sounds amazing. So, talking about dying, let's talk about how Embracer Group is cancer again, continuously. Still, I mean, we've said it a couple of times. We've talked like I'll admit I went off the deep end about Embracer when it came to them potentially canceling the KOTOR remake, which I still believe is going to happen. I still believe that they are the worst thing. And I don't think there's even a question. Like, everybody's talking about how Activision Blizzard is bad, and don't get me wrong, they did horrible shit to their people. Embracer is cancer for gamers. Embracer is the company that buys studios to kill them, because that's all they're doing and all they've done since they started acquiring studios. We saw the death of the Time Splitters franchise. The team behind Time Splitters is gone. It's not great. They laid off 1,300 employees in June of last year, followed by... by June of last year. They started with the fiscal year a layoff of 900 people in the second quarter of last year, followed by another 483 in the third quarter. It's 8% of their global workforce. And they canceled 29 unannounced games. Dude, 29 games.
Some of them announced, some of them not. The most recent Deus Ex was canceled, although I have heard that was more of a minor spin-off rather than like a main entry. Either way,
still
I mean, it was actually so significant that the voice behind the main character actually came out and effectively said goodbye to the franchise. If I'm not mistaken, Tomb Raider, there was a canceled Tomb Raider project. Just all sorts of shit. I mean, hell, the developers behind, I don't remember what episode this was, but it was probably around 10 or so episodes ago. The TMNT, the one that's the Last Ronin, that game saw some guts. The game wasn't canceled, and effectively anyone in any sort of position of authority was not let go. So that is good. But either way, I mean, everyone else is on the chopping block effectively.
Yeah. So they said more layoffs are coming despite laying off 1,300 people already, almost 1,400 people. And here's the thing, man. Here is why this company is cancer for the industry. When you're a publicly traded company, your shareholders are obviously like you have a responsibility to put them first. It's a known thing. You don't need to tell it to the people who are waiting for your games. These guys actually came out. The CEO literally said, let me find the exact quote here. Hold on. Where is it? The reductions are managed locally. Okay. Where the fuck did it go? I saw the quote and then I lost it. Basically,
up next on the Coin Drop, Russ tells us what the CEO.
Basically, CEO said, we're always going to put our shareholders first, no matter what. Which obviously they have a responsibility to do that as a publicly traded company, but saying it is not something you do because it does not inspire confidence. They bought the Borderlands developers Gearbox in February of 2021. It is 3 years, and they are supposedly, a lot of rumors, they haven't denied them, looking to sell Gearbox after owning them for 3 years. Not even enough time for them to develop a game. So Embracer, as far as I'm concerned, Embracer must be full of venture capitalists who are like old fucking bald heads who know nothing about video games, don't know that computers are a thing, probably still communicate through fax machines and landlines, and go, oh, this seems to be making a lot of money, let's invest, without any idea that it is a long-term investment to build video games. It takes a minimum of a studio 3 years to create something remotely playable at this point. Granted, those development times are getting faster based on game and scale and all that kind of stuff, but
I don't know. I mean, if you believe Bethesda, Starfield took 20 years to develop, and Arrowhead, which is the guys behind Helldivers, said that it took them 8 years to develop that game. That's a budget title. That's not like Final Fantasy VII or Dragon's Dogma or whatever. Games still take years. 5 to 6 years is kind of minimum at this rate, except for sequels. I mean, obviously Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming out 3 years later, something like that.
We are
either way.
I firmly believe we're going to see a speed up in that too as developers move over to using Unreal Engine 5, move away from having in-house engines because those are incredibly expensive. But as you move over to Unreal Engine 5, once you've built something once, you've got it, you know? So if you continue to use that engine for the sequel, minor tweaks and changes, boom, there's your sequel, you know? Like, you can rebuild most of the game, you've got all your systems, you make some modifications, some improvements, things of that nature. But yeah, like, it's still a multiple year job to build a single video game, and I feel like these guys have no fucking clue what they bought into, and they are ruining beloved franchises. And for that reason, I am petitioning now that 2024 Embracer Group is the worst thing to happen in gaming for 2024.
So you mentioned Activision Blizzard and Activision, or no, actually it was EA. Activision. Yeah, EA had won the award of the worst company in America. Worst company, not worst video game company, worst company to work at.
So we have to expand that for Embracer Group because they're worldwide, and I think they're Swedish or Polish. I can't remember which, but these guys are the worst company in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, the way I look at it is, honestly, EA won that award, I think, around the time they restructured and made a lot of like really good changes. And ever since then, it was the same year that they won that award, or like the second or third time they won that award, actually, that they made those restructurings. And since then, they haven't won that award. And they have made a lot of really good changes. They've moved back to old franchises, and they've made a lot of single-player games. And sure, they made some stupid-ass comments about, single-player games are dead, and then they started releasing single-player games.
Still waiting on Dragon Age 4.
They're not doing everything right, okay? But maybe they are. Maybe they are delaying the game or being silent about it until they have something positive to show, rather than showing it 8 years early. Thank you, Elder Scrolls 6. Is the better choice. And honestly, I think that is the better choice. They really shouldn't. No developer, doesn't matter who they are, should show something 4 years in advance. That's absolute max, in my opinion.
They already have. They announced this game so fucking long ago. But, like, here's the thing that kills me, dude. They pulled people off of Anthem and said it'll speed up development if we drop Anthem. You killed what could have been a great game for nothing. That's what kills me.
That is, that's a project I will lament for the rest of my life, because that game could have been so fucking good.
Dude, it was halfway there. It was halfway there.
It really was. It really was. Honestly, that game had more groundwork and more potential than absolutely any other game that came back from the break. Like literally any of them. Yeah. But that's a side tangent. Yeah. Embracer sucks, and they've given lots of companies the run for their money and effectively have taken the crown.
Yeah,
it's really unfortunate because they bought so many phenomenal studios or invested in phenomenal studios, only to cancel a lot of what they've promised to make.
So let's see, what do they own? What all do they own? They own
way too much.
Yeah, they do. They own Darksiders. They own Red Faction. They own Destroy All Humans. That's from Black Forest Games, who makes Destroy All Humans. Pisces Interactive, which is Magicka and Titan's Quest. Experiment 101 from THQ Nordic. They own Nordic. They own Deep Silver, obviously. All the Deep Silver. And they closed down Volition. So, the original makers of Saints Row, which I never played, but they looked like hilariously fun games. They looked to make like satire of the satire that is Grand Theft Auto. So hilarious.
To be fair to Embracer on this particular topic, they did made a wokeified Saints Row in the most recent one, and it was like awful in all of the ways.
Yeah, so, that's what I heard.
I can't really fault Embracer on that one.
Yep. Killed Free Radical, creators of Time Splitters. We will all now live out the rest of our lives without another Time Splitters, and that is a reality I don't want to live in. They again THQ Nordic, so they own Kingdom of Amalur, which they did Re-Reckoning, which I hear was fucking phenomenal that they did the re-release of that game. The base game was amazing. It was meant to be an MMO, didn't end up being an MMO. It was a massive single player game. It's gorgeous.
That's actually incorrect.
I thought it was actually incorrect. Okay.
So you're partially correct. The point was, their plan was to release Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning as a sort of build-up to earn money.
Gotcha.
So they could then make an MMO. It's kind of like get fans behind the franchise, get them to know and love it. But then the baseball player, whatever the hell his name is, he took a shit ton of money from Rhode Island. It was an investment from Rhode Island, and it failed pretty hardcore. Yeah. It didn't sell enough for them to be able to pay back, and therefore they floundered.
Wasn't the art based off of from some really famous fantasy writer or something like that too?
No, I think you might be thinking of Battle Chasers. You might be thinking of Battle Chasers.
Maybe it's Battle Chasers. I don't remember. I could have sworn there was something about the art guy.
Well, it did have an author, R.A. Salvatore, wrote like a 5,000 year more.
That's what it was. Yeah. Yep. They own Coffee Stain, which is Goat Simulator guys. Bugbear Entertainment. They did, I think it's not the Dirt. What's that Demolition Derby game? They do a demo game.
Demolition Derby?
Yeah, that might be it. I'm not too sure. I can't remember. It might just be Demolition Derby. I don't know. Warhorse Studios, Kingdom Come Deliverance, their game. They own them.
God.
Yep.
Oh my God. Why did you tell me that?
Yeah,
that pisses me off.
Yep. Acquired them in February of 2019 for $37.5 million. $37.5 million. Yeah, no, Warhorse is gone. Say goodbye.
I've been waiting for the sequel for
did you think
6
that was
years?
Yeah, nope.
Son of a bitch.
Nope. Yeah. Sorry, buddy. That's
Can we
gone.
just stop talking now? Because now I'm pissed off and sad.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Yep. Just so many studios that they own. Saber Interactive. I think we talked about Saber. Did we say Saber? I don't remember, but yeah. 4A Games, the studio behind Metro, obviously. New World Interactive, which is a subsidiary of Saber. Just Vertigo Games, the guys who make Arizona Sunshine. They own them too. Bought them in 2020. Dude, this company has shelled out so much money for these purchases. They bought Vertigo Games for $59 million. Zen Studios, they bought Zen Studios, which is another subsidiary of Saber Interactive. Undisclosed amount. No idea how much they bought them for. Yeah. It just... Yeah. Obviously, Gearbox, $363 million they paid for Gearbox. Asper, as we know, KOTOR, the game we'll never see. $363 million.
That's a lot of money.
$100 million for Asper Media. KOTOR will never see. Ghost Ship Games, $313 million. That's Deep Rock Galactic and the like.
That's insane. They spent more for Deep Rock Galactic than they did for Gearbox. That's crazy.
Another $313 million for DigiX Art. Let's see, they are Memories Retold. I have no idea who this studio is, but they paid a fuck ton for it. Slipgate, the guys who make Ghost Runner, $313 million.
Didn't particularly care for Slipgate, but that's all good.
3D Realms, $313 million. Perfect World Entertainment. Some of these I imagine were like bundled in because they're in the same numbers, but they don't have the same. Okay, no, they do all have the same. No, some of them don't have the same parent companies, so I don't know. Perfect World's Entertainment.
So they've done a lot of investing as well, where they've just invested and bought portions of these developers. They don't own everybody.
For sure.
They've become like stakeholders or shareholders.
This says acquired, so that could be anything from owning to investing, right? So
yeah.
Of course, Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, $300 million. Here's the big boy. Are you ready? They bought Free Mode, $790 million. It's the Middle Earth franchise. They bought Lord of the Rings, basically. $790 million. They also got Tripwire Interactive, $790 million. Tuxedo Labs. I mean, just a ridiculous amount of money this company has shelled out for nothing because they haven't let them release anything because they keep canceling everything.
Now I really want to know what games Embracer has released as a publisher, because they're effectively a publisher at this point.
Yeah.
Like, what games have they come out with? I do know there actually have been, you mentioned the developer, I don't remember which one at this point, but the Destroy All Humans. They have released 2 Destroy All Humans remakes in the past couple of years. So at least there's those. And to my understanding, those were actually pretty good.
I mean, I don't think that has anything to do with Embracer, but yeah.
Probably not, but either way, they still own the developer.
Yeah.
So you can attribute it to them.
Sure.
It's not like Microsoft buying Activision and then releasing Call of Duty 2 months later and saying, "See what we did?" It's not like that.
Nope. But that's Embracer Group. And if you heard a franchise that you love or a studio that you love in there, I'd hate to break it to you, but you'll probably never see another game by them. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I really do.
Hope you are.
I really want the KOTOR remake, dude. I was behind that fan project 100%. They hit him with a cease and desist, and then we're like, well, we're going to make it. And then it's just been a fucking shit show ever since. So
one of the Patreons just mentioned in our general chat, basically stating that they're kind of wondering if Embracer has been money laundering, given the amounts of money that they've spent on some of these developers. Just smells funny.
Yeah.
And like, it's a lot of money. So honestly, he's probably spot on. I hope that someone somewhere catches on and does something about it, because they really haven't done a lot.
No, they have not. And it's really disappointing. But let's move on to something that's not disappointing. Let's talk about a fan remake that did come out, that is available for a beloved game that truly deserves an actual remake. Probably one of Square Enix's best RPGs. Squaresoft's. Sorry.
Nope. Sony.
Was it really? I could have sworn it was.
Yep. It was a Sony-made development game as an answer to Final Fantasy VII.
Was it really? God damn.
Yes, it was.
Shows you my brain sucks. Yeah, you know what? Fair enough. For some reason, I'm going to claim the Mandela effect and say that I remember it being Square. Because I can't just accept that I'm wrong. It must be the Mandela effect.
I mean, come on. Last episode, you said I know more than most everybody. Seriously, you're going to question me now?
No, not at all. Not in the least. I'm definitely going to say I misremembered, because I'm not an asshole who's going to make up some fake thing and claim that rather than just admit that his brain sucks. Anyways, my rant about the Mandela effect aside, someone has sat down and done a 4K remaster of Legend of Dragoon, one of the greatest, and this is including Final Fantasy VII, one of the greatest RPGs to ever release on PlayStation 1. Like,
it really is.
There's just no argument. If you haven't played it, you are missing a legitimate... there's no words that can describe how amazing this game is. It's so above Final Fantasy VII in so many ways to me personally. 7 is great. We've said that enough times. Legend of Dragoon holds a special place in my heart that no game will ever fill, other than maybe Tenchu if they remake that and finally release it. It's a PC port. Guy made a 4K support. I believe it's 60 FPS, if I remember correctly. I don't have the article in front of me.
That's correct.
It's still 4:3 ratio, but it looks really good. For those of you who are listening to the audio podcast, when this video goes live, which it should be live about the time you're listening to it, you should head over to our YouTube and just look at this section, and you can see it in the bottom right-hand corner of our screen. I'm actually blown away how good the game looks at just the 4K bump, because pixel count, it's still the same. Like, the polys are all the same, the sprites are all the same, but it looks so much better, so much crisper. It's really impressive.
Yeah, so it's one of those games that when you put it into 4K, it actually really shows you that PlayStation 1 generation really wasn't the ugliest. I mean, sure, you compare it to nowadays, it's not pretty, obviously, but literally all it really needed was a resolution bump, and it's surprisingly good. I mean, they did such a phenomenal job on the background, the static background paintings, or the ones that actually don't change whatsoever, like back in the day the PlayStation 1 did. But the art direction, the fidelity of the game, the character models, it's actually really, really good, and this game really shows it.
Yeah. We got a guy in the chat who just asked for a link to it, so I put the link to the article, which I believe has more information in it on there. But yeah, I mean, when you compare this to, like, so I was watching something recently about Mario, Super Mario 64, because there's a huge modding community around that game on the original cart. Like, a lot of people have reverse engineered and made all new stuff for it. It's really impressive what they've done. But when you compare the fact that the N64 was in the same era as the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 1 looks amazing by comparison. I mean, textures on the 64 were very blurry because of how they had to render. I was watching the whole tech side of it kind of stuff. This guy describing how he was able to actually buff the pixel count by, like, using something that he understood in the console. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was almost like the way Dolby Pictures does their imaging process. So they actually, like, Dolby actually layers a picture over itself to give it, like, a deeper depth, so it actually displays the image twice. This guy found out there's an actual way to do that in the N64, where you can actually have, like, two different meshes layered over each other to make the mesh look better than they did originally. It's really impressive, but, like, there's actually only one or two cases where they even did it in the N64, which is what led him to find it. There's the picture that changes in Super Mario N64 that goes from Bowser to Peach, and that's actually that dual mesh thing that they did, and he found a way to use that to, like, build custom levels that looked cleaner. But when you compare that to what's basically 4K upscaled PS1, it's a night and day difference. I mean,
so I actually was playing this game semi-recently, within the last probably month and a half or so, on my PlayStation 5, because they released a PS5 version of the game, and the PS5 version runs at 2K. And that's another reason why I was able to, like, I understand what this game looks like. Sure, not at 4K, but close enough, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it really does look a lot better. I mean, sure, the fact that it has such a high resolution, you can actually kind of see the jittering of the way the character models move, which is a little weird, but ultimately the game still holds up really, 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 really well. And it's such a phenomenally well put together game that Sony has, over the years, have hinted that they're working on a new game. But the last time they've officially said anything was in the PlayStation 3 generation, before Final Fantasy 13 came out, actually. I have a distinct memory of reading an interview that, I don't remember the CEO's name at the time, because it was a different one than it is now. But basically, someone was asking them and talking to them about JRPGs, because that was at the time where Sony was, like, sort of moving away from JRPGs, but they were, like, trying to move back towards them. Mm-hmm. Anyways, someone asked them about Legend of Dragoon, and the CEO smiled and was like, "Just wait." And well, nothing ever came of it.
It's a damn shame.
So it really is, because I was so stoked about it. At this rate, I think that remakes are really starting to make a comeback. Or games are getting old enough to where they can come back and revisit these old games and make them modern. Final Fantasy VII is a perfect example of that.
And tell the story they meant to tell.
Yeah, many games are doing this, Resident Evil and so on and so forth, that they could easily do that with this one. Honestly, I think that if they did, it really, really should stay as a turn-based RPG, because the combat system was so unique that so few games have actually dared to emulate, that I think it would be just as unique. Might as well keep it.
Yeah, I feel like this is definitely one game that should stay classic turn-based. I was all for the change for Final Fantasy, because when Advent Children came out and that movie and Cloud fought Sephiroth, I was like, that's the combat that it should have had. Like, I want to fucking fight. And then they made the game like that, and I was so stoked, because like it feels so good for Final Fantasy to play that way. This game is more, its pacing is different, right? So it feels better in that turn-based combat.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. It definitely feels better. I mean, I guess I could see them doing something similar with Legend of Dragoon and making it more of a, the majority of the industry doesn't like turn-based RPGs anymore.
Yeah,
although
it's more niche.
They are kind of making a turn-based, a turn-based. They're making a comeback to a degree. If you look at, Baldur's Gate and various other games, looking at my wall for inspiration.
CRPGs have definitely gotten big. Baldur's Gate is a big sign of that too. So yeah,
there's been quite a few of them over the past like year or so, and so they really could stick to that. But at the same time, really the thing is that if you haven't played the franchise, there's almost QTE, but like not QTE. When you choose a skill, you have to press a button combination set, almost like a fighter, I guess might be the better way to put it, rather than QTE. And it's what made the game so. It made the game so fun. The storyline was great too, but it was the combat for me that really, really stood out, because it was so different and unique. And if they could manage to make a action-oriented combat game like Final Fantasy VII or any others similar to it, but also keep that system in play, combos or whatever, because Final Fantasy VII doesn't have combos. The remake doesn't have combos. So long as they kept that, but also didn't make it something akin to, say, Ghost of Tsushima or Ninja Gaiden or any other combo-based action game.
Yeah,
I don't know how to do that. I have absolutely no idea how that would be possible. So I think turn-based would probably be the best option. Really,
the only game I can think of that's done anything like that is Legrand Legacy. And for those of you listening out there who have not checked that out, that are fans of turn-based RPGs, it is a really good one. It's I don't know if it's on consoles, it's on PC. Legrand Legacy, I played it years ago at PAX, bought it. So fucking good. Art style is beautiful, story's great, and the combat has a very similar system where it's not like a button combo, but there's a kind of a QTE that you hit, and it determines like your crit chance and how much damage that crit does, and it's a timing thing. It's a really interesting take on turn-based. On top of that, your whole party travels with you the whole time, but you only have, I think it's 4 people in a fight at a single time, but you can swap them out in the middle of the fight. So like you can rotate people out for their strengths or weaknesses. It's really cool. 1% says you should check out Shadow Hearts. I'll have to look into that one. And
just for your everyone's knowledge, Legrand Legacy is available on all of the platforms.
There you go.
Switch, PS4, PC, and Xbox.
I wasn't sure if it ever released on everything else. I just know
it's $20 on Steam and Switch. I haven't checked the other consoles, but it's probably $20 on them too.
Cool. 1% says it sounds similar to Shadow Hearts, so I'll have to check out Shadow Hearts 2 when I get time. But
yes, Shadow Hearts is another franchise I'd love to see come back. Those were good.
Yeah,
those were fun.
Just on the topic of remakes, before we finish up here, I don't know if you saw recently, the director of FF7 doesn't want to make an FF8 remake, and that kind of breaks my heart, because I would love so much for an FF8 remake.
I don't know. Final Fantasy VIII is probably the only entry in the franchise that I'm just like, don't really care for it.
Yeah.
And I think the main reason being is because for me, the characters weren't nearly as memorable as the other games. But also, once you get to the airship portion of the game, once the school becomes a ship and you can fly it around, there's something about the game that every other Final Fantasy and games like it, when they open up in that regard, this game felt like it fell apart as a game. And
it definitely, like, the pacing was weird. I'll give you that. The pacing got weird at that point, but up to that point, it was really solid. And then, yeah, I'll give you that. I thought Squall was an amazing character. I love the gunblade. I love the way they handled summons. I loved the weird love triangle between him, his teacher, and Renoa. That was so fucking. Yeah. That was really bizarre, but very funny. I'll give you that a lot of the characters did feel kind of forgettable, but
I mean, Squall and Renoa are obviously the most important ones,
of course,
and they did hit, so I can give them the credit there. But I don't know, it's probably my least favorite in the series. So like when they did that HD port or whatever last year or the year before, whatever year that was, I was like, yay, cool, give me a fucking 6, damn it. And on the topic of 6, they actually also commented on that, and they said that it would take them 20 years to do a proper. And I'm like, do you think we're all retarded? Like, what? Like, sure, it would take them a good amount of time. It'd probably take them, closer to 6 to 8 years. Like, sure, especially because Final Fantasy VII has, some of its weird aspects to it, and they have managed to figure out how to do that for Remake and Rebirth and probably whatever the next entry is. But 6, I mean, you suplex a fucking train. I don't know how you would do that in a modern graphical setting. So like, there's things in that game that would be hard to translate into a modern.
Well, I mean, there's things in Final Fantasy VII that they're going to do in this next installment, presumably, that I don't know how they're translating. Barrett losing his arm cannot happen the way it happened in the original version. That will make no sense. None. No. It didn't make sense back then.
It's just one of those games that I can see that they would probably struggle with some aspects.
Yeah.
More so than, say, Final Fantasy VII.
I think,
and I to a degree, I get it, but 20 years, that seems like insane hyperbole.
The only reason I can see 20 years, right? 20 years is with Final Fantasy VII, there was a lot of art, and it was 3-dimensional, so you had a lot more realistic look at what surroundings look like. Granted, the backgrounds were not 2D, but like you moved 3-dimensionally, right? But like you had the setting, and with Final Fantasy VI, it was all pixels, so that makes it a lot harder to get a scope of like size and how things should look. So it's taking 6 and going all the way back to the drawing board and completely reshaping the scope of the game, what the game like 20 years, probably not.
That's the same thing as 7, though. I mean, sure, they're polygons at that point.
They just had more references for 7. Like, Cloud looks like Cloud because they modeled him off of 7. Like, he looks. I watched a video the other day.
You gotta remember the main artist. I can't remember his name currently, but for Final Fantasy VII, there's all the main arts. Yeah, they could easily translate the better drawings, that aren't chibi drawings, into a 3D model, and it would be close enough. You know what I mean?
That art style.
At the same time, I actually kind of disagree with you in the sense of that, like, there's less reference material, and it's not really the reference material aspect. It's really the fact that since it was a 2D game versus a 3D game, that gives them more freedom to do whatever the fuck they want to. They don't have to be so rigid as they were with Final Fantasy VII, because the reference material is so old, and what they're doing now is so different. Mm-hmm. They could really change a lot, and people wouldn't really have room to be upset if certain things changed.
I mean, people are currently upset with Final Fantasy VII, so purist, man,
people are
purist.
upset about the best thing. Yeah, people are upset about the best things that happen. So whatever.
Yeah, but yeah, I hope one day Sony finally brings back Legend of Dragoon. I hope we see an actual I hope Tenchu sees a rebirth. I hope we mentioned Digital Foundry in this podcast because we didn't do it this episode. So I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Tim, any final thoughts before we head out for the night and start our Patreon side?
If you guys are interested in spreading sweet liberty, let me know. I have been playing the game as much as I can, and there is a 50% EXP boost this particular weekend.
Nice.
Be sure to check out my Twitch and my YouTube. They're slightly different. Coin Drop Games on Twitch, and I believe it's
Tim. It's Tim at Coin Drop.
Tim at Coin Drop. Yeah, that one. Yep.
How do I know your link and you don't, dude? Come on.
I'm tired of my tooth hurts, man.
Thanks for joining us, 1%. Thanks to everybody else listening to the podcast. As always, we're going to head over to our Patreon, do our exclusive content over there. I have been playing with the idea of slowly making those episodes free. Might start that after we hit our 52nd episode. Start every other week releasing those extended versions over on Patreon for free. It doesn't make sense to leave them locked forever, so we'll see what the other actual paying Patreons feel about on that, and if they're okay with that. After our 52nd episode, our first episode with the Patreon exclusive side will go free on our Patreon, as long as they're cool with that. Tim's looking at me like I'm crazy, but
you said 52nd. You meant 52 episode, not 50 episode, and I was like, what?
Yeah, 52nd,
that was
52, 52.
Brain.
Yep, 502. That'd be 502. We would have been doing this for a very long time.
I was thinking 50 seconds is in less than a minute. That's what I was confused.
Bro, where is your brain?
What?
Anyways, patreon.com/CoinDropPod for all of that content. And we will see you guys next time. Oh, and last thing.
Tell your mom I said hi.
There we go. Have a great night, everyone.